Well, Manson had been telling his family about Helter Skelter ever since that album came out. Helter Skelter was going to come down. How was it going to come down? Well, he said the blacks in Watts, he called them spades. He said they were going to come out of Watts, they were going to go up to Beverly Hills and murder a family in Beverly Hills or Bel Air, print words in blood on the wall. And that was going to happen in the summer of 1969. Well, the summer kept wearing on and it wasn't happening. So one day he told little Paul Watkins, he says, Paul, we're going to have to show Blackie how to do it because it's not happening. Blacks aren't doing it. Paul knew exactly what Helter Skelter meant, and little Paul took off. He fled. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. So on the late afternoon of August the 8th, he told his family, now is the time for Helter Skelter. Tells Tex Watson to go to the former home of Terry Melcher, Doris Day's son, murder everyone on the premises, tells the girls, get some dark clothing and a knife, go with Tex, do everything that Tex tells them to do. And that night, as you well know, Sharon Tate and 4 other people were brutally murdered, stabbed to death. 3 of the victims were also shot.
The Terry Melcher thing had to be in his head to pick 10,050 Cielo Drive. I mean, there's a lot of big houses in L.A.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But with the overall motive of Helter Skelter, as long as that residence represented, number one, the establishment and the establishment's rejection of him, they chose that residence. But he knew that Melcher was no longer living there. Terry could never get that out of his mind. I said, Terry, Manson went to the residence 4 months earlier, looking for you, wanted to prevail upon you again to audition him, and was told that you're living in Malibu as you moved out. He was not looking for you that night. But as I say, with the overall motive of Helter Skelter, it didn't make any difference whom they killed, as long as they were Caucasian and appeared to be people of easy circumstances. And I was telling you about this supplementary motive of viciously striking out at the establishment, particularly the establishment's rejection of him. And I think this home represented the establishment to him. When he went there 4 months earlier looking for Melcher, he was kind of booted off the premises, treated very, very shabbily. But other than that, I don't see any connection. No, he knew Melcher no longer lived there. So he's not after Terry Melcher.
Who do you think, I mean, do they share responsibility equally, the murderers?
Who?
Was, between Tex, Atkins, and Krenwinkel? I mean, wasn't Watson the primary?
Yeah.
So can you just tell, because I want to expound on the brutality of what happened that night.
Krenwinkel, the main person she killed, she may have participated in a couple others, but the main person, no question, was Abigail Folger. Chased her out to the front lawn. Watson was stabbing everyone, with the exception, he claimed early on, of Sharon Tate. But then in a later book,
That's your male, I think. It's your male.
But then in a later book, he admits stabbing Sharon Tate. So Watson was the main killer. Here's a guy who told a psychiatrist that he said, you know, during these murders, these victims, with a smile on his face, he said these victims were running around like chickens with their heads cut off. No, there's no question about Watson. Susan Atkins, there's a real problem whether, I can't be 100% sure that she stabbed anyone. Susan Atkins, when she was cooperating with me, told me right to my face that Sharon Tate said to her, please let me live so I can have my baby. And Sadie told me that she told poor Sharon, look, bitch, I don't have any mercy on you. You're going to die. But then I called her to the grand jury the following day, and she wouldn't say that she stabbed Sharon Tate. And in subsequent years, she's been denying it. Now, the reason I tell you that there's some question in my mind, I can't be 100% sure whether she stabbed anyone, is number one, Watson, in his book, says that he's the one that stabbed Sharon Tate to death. And there's another little problem. Susan Atkins told the 2 girls at the Sybil Brand Institute for Women in East Los Angeles that she left her knife behind And she thought about going back and getting it, but she decided not to. A knife was found about 3 feet from Sharon Tate, and the blade did not have any blood on it. So there's no question about Susan Atkins' guilt. She says she was holding Sharon Tate down when Tex Watson stabbed him. No question about her guilt. As an aider and abettor, co-conspirator, she helped out. No question about her guilt. But I cannot be 100% sure anymore that she actually stabbed Sharon Tate.
Are you convinced, I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but are you convinced that Linda Kasabian's hands were as clean as she claims they were?
Absolutely, yeah. Linda Kasabian was a young girl, the closest in the family to a flower child, looking for Jesus all over the country. She'd been to the Haight, she'd been to Taos, New Mexico, the American Psychedelic Circus in Boston, and she ends up at Spahn Ranch. She thought Charlie was Jesus. She thought they were going out on a creepy crawly mission that night. The only reason that Manson, I'm convinced, had her go along, because Linda was a very docile girl, was that she had a driver's license, and that's why he had her go along. She was absolutely aghast and horrified at what she saw. The second night she didn't want to go along. She was not in a position to say no, so she went along, but she did not participate in any of these murders. And she told me that at the time of the murder, she said, I knew, Mr. Bugliosi, that I was going to be the one that was going to have to tell the world what happened. First opportunity she had, she fled back to New Hampshire, left the family, waived extradition, came back to LA, didn't ask for anything. Her lawyer got her immunity, justifiably so, but she didn't ask for anything. Excellent witness for the prosecution, and I mean, she was on the witness stand for 17 days of cross-examination, and they couldn't break her down at all because she was telling the truth, brutally truthful, even in instances where she was saying things harmful to her personal interest. But no, she did not participate in these murders. I definitely think she was cut out of different cloth than the co-defendants. One illuminating vignette about Linda, I took her up to the Tate residence after the murders to have her point out to me certain things that she had seen. And we come up to the gate, and there's 4 very vicious, snarling dogs on the other side of the gate, just barking their heads off. And Linda started to cry. And I said, why are you crying, Linda? And she said, why couldn't they have been here that night? So, no, she's you have to separate her from the other girls.
Okay. We were talking about there's been some claims that Manson went back that night after the carnage. Can you tell me your view on that?
Yeah, Manson said that in a book that he co-wrote. He said he went back there with someone else, and he didn't say who that person was, refuses to say who that person was. And the reason he refuses to say is that no such person exists. Apart from the fact that Manson has no credibility whatsoever when he says anything, the story is preposterous on its face. Absolutely preposterous. The very reason why Manson got these people to kill for him is he thought in his mind he would be helping to immunize himself from criminal responsibility, get other people to kill for him. And in point of fact, it was more difficult to convict Manson because he was not physically at the scene. Now, knowing, because he briefed the killers when they got back to Spahn Ranch, knowing that these victims were screaming out into the night for their lives, he had to know there was a great chance that soon thereafter police would be swarming all over the premises. And that's why the very last place on the face of this earth that he would go after the murders is back to the scene of the murders, thereby jeopardizing his getting caught, being implicated in the murders. And for what? To make it even more crazy. What's the allegation? You tell me, then I'll address myself. That he went back there to do what? To move the glasses or something?
No, but they've said that what is Sharon Tate's blood doing on the front steps if she was murdered in the living room and her body was not moved later? Have you heard that claim?
No, but in his book, something about he moved something.
He went back and he threw the glasses into the room to throw off the police, didn't he?
Yeah. You know, well, how does that throw off the police? How does that throw off the police? It's crazy. He's going to risk getting caught, and the whole purpose of his not going there was not because he's a Himmler type who apparently fainted when he was at Auschwitz. No, Manson was capable of killing. He shot lots of Papa, left him for dead, participated in the murder of Shorty Shea. No, he had them go there so they would be responsible, and he thought that maybe he could insulate himself. He's going to go back there to move some glasses or insert some glasses at the murder scene? That's crazy. I reject it completely out of hand.